a hidden underground cryogenic facility discovered at a military warehouse, transformative meditation experiences, hidden truths about the military industrial complex and extraterrestrials, plus the fate of humanity and our potential role in a universal community. We got a lot to talk about today with our guest, Paul Vecchiet. He is an author whose speculative fiction bridges U.S. government cover-ups, extraterrestrial phenomenon, spirituality, and the future of our humanity. Through his writing, Paul encourages us to explore hidden truths and imagine new realities. He is a design manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer, and Paul draws from real life experiences in his novel, which is fiction, The Disclosure Paradox. Paul, hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right, we've got so much to talk about. Let's start by just setting the groundwork. How did your career in the military inspire this amazing book?
The book would not be out if it wasn't for the experience that I had in the military, where I discovered the existence of a cryogenic chamber in a building that was a warehouse that had a secret basement, or a basement that really wasn't well known, I suppose. And it housed this cryogenic chamber, which was 70 by 90 feet. That was one step in many steps that led me to write the book. Before that, it was just my upbringing and my passion for science fiction. So, but there's no Disclosure Paradox without me experiencing that revelation about the cryogenic chamber in a very secure facility.
This is really fascinating. And like I said in the beginning, there's so much to unpack here, because there's what you discovered, and then there's also some of the folks that you've spoken with, and there's your own meditative experiences and more. But let me just start by talking about, this is a novel, but it's based on real events. Why do you say that it's almost autobiographical?
Because most of the events are real, based on real experiences and contacts that I've had. I walk the reader through how I got to the beliefs that I acquired, starting when I was very young, being brought up in Catholic school and not having comfort in what I was being taught, and looking for other answers, and of course all of the characters are based on real people that I've met, but I've changed their names. So the only thing that is not real, that is fiction, is anything that is of entertainment value, anything that has action sequences. But most of the events that are depicted in the novel are based on real experiences.
And we're going to get into this whole concept of you're with the military in many ways, and yet you're disclosing a lot of things, because that in and of itself, I worry for you, Paul. I'm worried that you might be making a target out of yourself, and I want to get to that. But first, I want to lean into the other aspect of the book and where it came to you, because you had these meditative, spiritual experiences as well. Can you unpack that for us?
Right. Well, again, the meditation is part of the journey. Without having those experiences, I wouldn't have written the book. I got into meditation after having contact with people that are psychic, reading about what meditation is, where it opens up a gift that we all have, and it meditation is listening to the universe, whereas praying is speaking and just talking out with your voice going out in space. So when you're meditating, you're collecting information, and it doesn't stop when you stop meditating. Once you open that gift, things start to happen. Dreams are more lucid, and things start to make sense.
It's really fascinating. Um, I do meditate, I do yoga. I think I mentioned to you before we even started, I like to do my magic mind, replacing a lot of the coffee. Still drink my coffee, still do magic mind. It's all a matter of getting into that flow state, opening yourself up, and being
Mm-hmm.
able to have almost a calming effect. A lot of times I feel like we're running so fast and we're draining ourselves, we become stressed, and that's when we close down. So whether it's closing down and not necessarily being able to stop, calm, be mindful, meditate, and open yourself up so things can come in, or a matter of you're just not giving yourself, your body, a chance to rest and relax, get enough sleep, all of that. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there really quick. Magic Mind has been a friend to the show for quite some time, and I've been using it for a while. I love the little easy to go. I drink it myself as a shot, but people a lot of times can pour it into their tea or their smoothies and stuff. And there is actually an offer code that we're offering to folks right now. So if you want to take advantage, they do have a limited offer that gets you 48% off, or your first subscription is 20% off for a one-time purchase. You can use BTMY20 at checkout, and we'll put the link and everything in the show notes. So I do think, Paul, it's really fascinating the way we can kind of set ourselves up to experiencing this, because you have these situations where you saw this underground facility, for lack of a better words, opened yourself up to what you were, experiencing. And then you talk to all of these other folks too. So you got like basically three things that set up the disclosure paradox. Can you tell us a little bit about the extraterrestrials and what's going on with the disclosure paradox? Are they going to invite us, for example, to a universal community? Are we part of the club now, like on Star Trek? What's going on there?
Unfortunately, that's not going to happen, at least not in our near term. Many contactees have gotten testimony that, yes, there are extraterrestrials out there. They are very interested in us. They're more interested in how we treat the Earth rather than ourselves. And they would like to have us join the universal community. But there's one thing that's preventing us from joining the universal community, and that is the combination of our intelligence. And we are very intelligent compared to them. They've been around for a long time, so they have been evolving with a certain level of intelligence. If we were to evolve as long as they did, we would also have extraordinary inventions and machines and things. So you combine our intelligence with our barbarism, violence. We have an irrational obsession with possessions, and worst of all, the thing that they have seen throughout the ages is that we have exterminated our own. Either probably because racism, but that goes towards genocide. And they've seen what we've done with the Aborigines, with the Native Americans, with the people of the Amazon. And we are under what's called a social and a technological quarantine. And the reason is that if we were to gain the technology, they are concerned that we would weaponize it and use it against them in the name of something like manifest destiny or the Monroe Doctrine, whatever you want to call it, even spreading Christianity, for example. They're very concerned about that, and we are being watched carefully, especially with the use of atomic energy that we have, which to them, we're like children playing with matches. We really don't know all the effects of, for instance, a massive detonation, a nuclear detonation, because it actually affects other dimensions, not just the dimension that we see. So, yeah, it unless we are able to change fundamentally, our violence, our greed, and of course our the way that we deal with people that are different from us, things are not going to get better.
Yeah, we're not invited to this party, so to speak.
Correct.
And everything you're saying makes sense. And it really kind of breaks my heart in a way because there are so many kind, generous, giving people, peaceful peoples in our society. Yet it seems like we do have certain factions that kind of ruin it for the rest of us. You talk about manifest destiny and this whole idea of spreading and infiltrating certain ideas and imposing them on others.
Mm-hmm.
When you really think about it, Paul, I was just struck as I was listening to you. Something like manifest destiny and these ideas of colonizing different areas of the world,
Yeah.
this was only a few hundred years ago, and on a global scale, that's got to be just like seconds of time. So we really are in our infancy, and to your point, like little kids playing with matches when it comes to things like nuclear energy and stuff. How
Mm-hmm.
does this tie in? I'm curious into the whole idea because I feel like Eastern philosophies and the whole idea of karma come into play because a lot of the Eastern philosophies and religions are a little bit different than what we have in the West. And they seem like they might be a little bit more in tune with what you're talking about.
Well, the Eastern religions, the Eastern philosophies, uh, the there's a reason why in the Eastern religions you see evidence of contact with extraterrestrials because it aligns with uh, the here and now. The Eastern philosophies are concerned about how we relate to each other in the present tense. The Western religions are concerned about what happens when we pass. And so, um, you know, they're, it's a totally different mindset. And you talk about karma, and what people misunderstand about karma is it's not a near-term thing. Karma and karmic law is getting a either a reward or a penalty for a life previously lived for the next life. So, for example, a rapist in one life, when they pass, in order to learn the lesson, that next life, that rapist will be a victim, and so on. It's all
And that
about
makes a lot of sense.
the Earth to the extraterrestrials is called Earth School, and it's because um, it is where our spirits, which are linked to us, get the lessons of being human. They can't have the experiences without being linked to a human body. They can't understand love, pain, suffering, all of the things that make us human, beauty, creativity, all of that. You can't do that in the spiritual world. So they're linked to us, live through us, and then if they learn the lesson, they ascend. If they don't, then they come back and relearn the lesson.
Maybe that's why our population is so big because people just keep coming back, and we don't quite get out of that cycle, unfortunately. Can you tell
Uh,
us what the indigo cloud meditation is? What's that about?
yeah. When I described it to somebody who is very much into meditation, they said that that's one of those things that people hope to experience. It's like nirvana, and so the indigo cloud. When I was in meditation, and I saw the cloud. Not only did I see something, but I also felt something. I felt a euphoria that is not of this earth. Just, I mean, you can talk about happiness, but this was well beyond happiness, and it 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 cut to every fiber of my being. And so when I was in meditation and I saw the cloud and I got closer, it dissipated, and I started to see flashes, indigo flashes, all over the place. And it was like in a beehive structure where all of these flashes were combined in the structure. And again, as I got closer, I got even that stronger feeling of euphoria. And then I realized what it was. And once I realized what it was, I was back in my body. But that was essentially seeing what everyone calls God, where those flashes were individual spirits between lives. They were either, the flashes were either getting data or downloading data from their previous life. And so when all of those spirits are combined, and if you have one conscious thought, you can imagine the power that that energy has, that massive energy. And when you're talking about countless spirits, I can't even talk how many that would be, because it just doesn't involve the spirits that are linked to the humans. It could be spirits linked to other entities.
Oh, that's fascinating. So that is God that you saw? Is that God? Is there a God?
Right. That's called the source. And yeah, the one failure of Western religions is that they use the human paradigm to explain something that is beyond human. It's not a being. It's really energy, and so energy has no beginning and no end. It's always going to be in some form, whereas a being has a beginning and end, and that's why when people think, oh, well, how did God start, and or how, you know what is its origin, and um, the answer is that it's always been there because it's an energy.
As humans, we have a very linear way of thinking. We start and we end. Everything has a beginning and an ending. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
might be part of it too. And again, to your point, with Eastern philosophies and religions, a lot of times things are much more circular or more quantum if we want to lean into this whole idea. Because when you also describe the source and the indigo cloud and things being uploaded and downloaded, it kind of making me feel like we might be in a simulation as well, which is a whole another theory of existence. But
Yeah.
to talk about this, to stay on point, I'm curious with the book, and let's get digging into more specifically the book, because this is an amazing book and it is a novel. It's not a nonfiction book. You probably could have wrote a nonfiction book. There's a lot of other ones out there in this vein, but why did you, Paul, choose to write a novel instead of a nonfiction book?
Um, for the first thing is that there are many authors out there that are writing about testimony, and they have acquired a following. They have a library of books that they have written, um, and they're considered the authorities on the subject matter. Um, I don't consider myself an authority. I could only tell people what happened to me, which is a very small part of what everyone else talks about. And um, the so I can't compete with someone that has a, a, a recognized name that has been going around the circuit, doing talks and um, has, been on podcasts and things. So I thought that, first of all, the message needed to get out. So how do I get the message out? Um, well, make it into a fiction, because first of all, I wanted to also protect the names of the individuals that were telling me their stories, and they trusted me. So it was agreed upon that if I were to include their testimony, that I would change their names and I would make a story, a fiction, rather than something that there are so many books out there that are nonfiction that talk about these topics, and it's flooded, really. It's saturated with those kinds of books, and a lot of them are self-published and stuff. So I think probably the pragmatic approach was to make it a fiction, but with a lot of truth in it.
And that's what storytelling does for us, just in a very broad sense. We, as humans, we love stories. So putting something into a narrative form can really help with the understanding a lot of times, rather than in a nonfiction format. It feels a little bit more this fact, this thing, this thing. Whereas when we have a story with a narrative arc and characters, it kind of lands better within us. And I just want to emphasize again, like we talked about in the very beginning, these folks that you're referencing in your book are based on real people. There is
Right.
even like CIA documents, like you're pulling from stuff that is based in reality.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned CIA
Yeah,
documents.
yeah.
Um, the information that I got regarding Dulce, for example, which is the joint underground laboratory, uh, which is in a Indian reservation. Um, I got that information from a woman whose mother was in intelligence, and before she passed, she gave her about 600 pages of documents where they collected information from people that they interviewed and so there's testimony from other people about Dulce and other things that had to do with extraterrestrials. Um, and so this woman made friends with me, and I told her about what I intend to do, and she sent me those PDFs, and I used it to develop the scenarios in the book where we talk about attacking, assaulting the underground facility and disabling it.
Wow. Wow. And because of the fact that you are with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer, and there is, like, right now in our time and place in history, I feel like there's a lot of people even testifying before Congress, and people coming out and talking about whether it's UAPs or extraterrestrials or other life forms. This is just bubbling to the surface
Mm-hmm.
nowadays. Do you, Paul, worry? Because I'm kind of worried about you. You're disclosing. It's called the disclosure paradox. Are you worried for your own safety talking about this the way you are?
I'm a very small fish in the whole thing, and it. I'm not writing anything that would harm our national security. In fact, my premise about us not being ready for joining the community aligns with what the government are trying to do. Um, Disclosure is trying to get governments to reveal our relationships with extraterrestrials, contacts, all that stuff, even any technology that we may have gotten from crashes. But my take is that we're not ready for that, and it's not a good idea for um, us, for the systems, to have that information, because the systems are corrupt. And incidentally, the disclosure paradox, the paradox people find out at the end of the book, is how are we as a human race supposed to improve ourselves or evolve spiritually if we're not allowed to know what's wrong with us?
That is a paradox, isn't it?
Right. Mm-hmm.
How is it that yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you mentioned about getting information out. The governments, they'd like to have information out there. In this day and age of the internet, the more information is out there, the more confused the public will get. And they really can't tell the difference between a hoax and truth. And even now with AI, it's even more difficult. So what happens when information goes out? The government used to deny. They don't even deny anymore. They just let it go. There are no responses whatsoever. And so if it's a hoax, they don't say whether it's hoax or not. If it's truth, they won't say whether it's truth or not. And it works very well with what they're trying to do, which is to confuse the public and keep the public in that paradigm where there's still many people that don't believe that there is life beyond us.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get into, this whole idea of the military industrial complex and the way they're dealing with this information. Because, to your point, somebody could get extraterrestrials landing in their backyard right now, go out there and film it and put it on the internet, sharing it far and wide for the entire world to see. And I dare say that a bare fraction of humanity would actually even believe it, because we've got AI and deep fakes and all of this. So right now, the military just seems to be wallowing and enjoying the fact that there's all this confusing information out there.
Exactly.
I'm curious, Paul, are you hopeful for humanity?
Well, we shouldn't lose hope, right? And there's a chance, and maybe the role that I've taken, or the role that was given to me, which is counselor and informer, according to my contacts, and the woman that probably serves as my oracle, where I receive messages through her in her meditation. Perhaps this book will have a role in educating people, and perhaps it will have a role in a spiritual awakening. It's not going to happen probably in my lifetime, but maybe it could be a start, and maybe it will also encourage other people who have had similar experiences but didn't know how to get their information out. Maybe it'll encourage them to do some writing too.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, Paul, I talk to so many authors from different genres, fiction, nonfiction. I was just talking to an author earlier, and she uses tarot cards and she enters meditative states and she sees past lives. I've talked to therapists who talk about past trauma, childhood trauma that we've had. I've talked to people who they've seen UFOs and they have that angle. But the thing that always strikes me as being just kind of like this person in the middle interviewing and talking to all these authors is they're all kind of saying a very similar thing. They're just coming at it in different ways. And maybe that's part of the paradox too, is we're all getting the answers that we need. It's just a matter of receiving, listening to them, and how we might want to be have those messages delivered. And in your book, it's a narrative format, but it's still just as poignant as anything else that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, can you tell folks where it is that they can go to find the Disclosure Paradox? And I also know this is the first book in a series of many, so people should be able to follow you online and stay abreast of everything that you're doing. Can you give folks details?
Sure. I have a website. It's thedisclosureparadox.com. And in that website, my web designer has allowed people to go through and read about the book, the characters. There are some excerpts in there, but there are also links to ordering the book. And it's not just available on Amazon, it's available on Barnes & Noble, and it's even available in the UK and Canada.
Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing the Disclosure Paradox with us and your story in writing it, the truth behind the story, the spiritual aspect, and the fact that we're not necessarily alone. However, they're going to leave us alone, at least for now.
Correct.
At least until we can become better humans, right? So
yeah, we're still in the corner.
We're like the naughty kid in the corner.
Right. That's right.
Wearing the dunce hat going, no.
Correct.
No intergalactic community for you. You can't play in our playground.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you, Paul. And thank you, everybody, for being with us on the Books That Make You show. You can find out more about us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. And there you can find more about all of the amazing authors that we talk to on the show. You can sign up for the Webby Award-winning Books That Make You newsletter. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, do not forget to check out the Magic Mind Challenge, which is happening in the month of February, and see if it enhances your creativity, your performance, and gets you into that creative flow state. It can help you with those meditative experiences. You never know. You might just be talking to the same entities that Paul has been talking to. And they have a limited time offer. You can use it now, and that gives you up to 48% off on your first subscription, or 20% off a one-time purchase with the code. They use a lot of organic ingredients. The mushrooms are grown in California, and they are organic. Lion's mane mushrooms, a lot of the herbs and the different nootropics that they use are really sourced from incredible places. And once again, you can use the offer code. It's BTMY20 at checkout, and you can claim it at magicmind.com. The link and everything is in the description below. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.